I haven't lived and died with the Minnesota Twins in well over a decade. But man, this game tonight sucked with a capital S. Where do they go from here? Fortunately, they don't have to wait too long, as Saturday's game is a 1:10 p.m. first pitch, so they can get right back on the horse with big money Pablo Lopez on the mound. Can they get their mojo back? I guess we're going to find out. All this and more on this edition of Locked On Twins. So sit back, buckle up, and get comfortable because Locked On Twins starts now.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say? Thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And, of course, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. As a reminder, as I say every single show, we'd love to have you hang out in the comment section. We've had some very devoted fans hanging out down there. BK comes to mind. I'm trying to think of who else. Pardon me for not remembering everybody, but there are some very active people in the comments. We really appreciate that. If you would leave us, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen, we'd love to have that. If you like the show, tell other people. If you don't like the show, tell me. And that way I can make the requisite changes to make this the best version of itself. Also, if you have any questions you'd like answered on the show, please feel free to reach out, Twitter, whatever, and let me know. We got an entire segment today of reaction to this woebegone loss or woeful loss to a woebegone Nationals team that came into tonight 5-13. So we will have an entire segment of people who are chomping at the bit to have their voices heard. Also, too, don't forget to check out the Locked On Twins Breathless post-game minute after every game. And now the Breathless pre-game minute before every game as well, where we run down the starting lineups, what we expect to see, and maybe, if we have time, a little breakdown of the opposing starting pitcher. Now, before we get started, make sure you download the Gametime app. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONMLB, and you will get $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That's sports tickets, that's theater tickets, any tickets you can imagine, any event you want to go to. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. You won't regret it. I promise you that. Now, Twins play the Nationals Saturday at 1:10 p.m. At Target Field. It's going to be Pablo Lopez versus Chad Kuhl. Again, not too long for the sour taste of this one to stick in the Twins' collective mouths. You can catch every pitch of the Twins' hometown broadcast with Corey and Danny on Sirius XM with the SXM app. Make sure you download it and search Twins. Let's just dive right in. If you want some optimism, Kyle Garlick hit a 3-run walk-off homer for the St. Paul Saints tonight. Beyond that, a lot of sports going on in Minneapolis tonight, Twin Cities tonight. If you're watching us instead of the Wild, or listening to us instead of the Wild, same goes for the Timberwolves. We greatly appreciate that because there's a lot of things that could and should have your attention tonight. But, we come into the day with roster moves. Jorge Polanco back. Simeon Woods-Richardson coming up for another tour of duty with Jorge Alcala sent out and Eddie Julien sent out. Maybe not as much optimism as you'd like to have had they sent out Emilio Pagan, which is what a lot of fans would have liked to see, or DFA, not sent out. So there was some optimism, and also a 5-13 team stocked top to bottom with guys that are not household names, unless you're a prospect fiend. You had to feel good about the Twins' chances. And then the Twins score 2 runs in the third inning. Joey Gallo hits a solo homer. Max Kepler drives in the other run, and the offense goes silent the rest of the night. Tyler Mahle was all right. 6 1/3. Gave up a homer to Joey Meneses. That is what got him the gate after 92 pitches. Lowered his ERA down to 3.32, which was in the fours before. But I wasn't all that impressed. I thought he was fine. And again, too, I should be fair. The weather was horrible for pitching. So in fairness, the fact that he wasn't popping the glove at 93, 94 was more 91, 92. I'll defer to that the weather as a big reason for that. But before that Meneses homer, it felt like the Nationals were down 5-0 instead of 2-0. Then suddenly Meneses hits the homer and it's 1 run. And then you tell yourself, well, pretty much anything can happen here. And that's exactly what happened in the top half of the 8th as Griffin Jacks comes in and gives up 2 earned on just kind of the strangest bit of batted ball luck you could even imagine. We'll pull up his inning here because it's almost laughable. The double from CJ Abrams, 49.9 miles per hour. At least the single by Lane Thomas, 96.1. It was stroked well enough to be, a nice hit, driving in Abrams to tie the game. But the throw from Trevor Larnach in left field going to the middle of the infield, that makes no sense to me. Maybe, cold hands, whatever. But that allows Thomas to virtually walk into second base. Keibert Ruiz drives him in with a 78.5 mile per hour single. And that was that. Then in the 8th, Nick Gordon pinch hits for Michael A. Taylor. Nick Gordon pinch hitting when he's not hitting his weight, his older brother's weight. He's not hitting anybody's weight. Strikes me as a little odd. But Hunter Harvey comes in, strikes out the side. The older he gets, the more he looks like his old man, too. If you know who Brian Harvey was, I believe he was the first closer for the Florida Marlins back in the mid-90s. But big old Fu Manchu, kind of like the precursor to Rod Beck. I think the older Hunter Harvey gets, the more he looks like his old man. But he came in and absolutely diced in that 8th inning. Carlos Correa strikes out looking. He's been pretty rough recently. I mean, it just hasn't been good. And then in the 9th, the Twins get something going with a walk. Larnach walks after Buxton singles. Jorge Polanco hits kind of a knuckling liner to short. Buxton alertly scampers back. But then Jose Miranda hit what feels like about his 500th ground ball to third base this season. 4 and around the horn double play, and the ball game was over. Kyle Finnegan came in with an ERA over 9. Twins made him work just a little bit, but ultimately, this offense sucks out loud right now. I can't even be like, oh, wait and see, because who are they waiting for? Joey Gallo's back. Jorge Polanco's back. Alex Kirilloff is on his way back, but if you came into the season expecting him to have a big role in a good offense, you were definitely hoping against hope. So yeah, the offense is running out of excuses. It's got to start happening here. And I think it will. I think the talent is there, but offensively, they just don't have it right now. And to lose to this Nationals team, and again, I know they're big league players, and they're going to win, probably 50-some games this year. And I'm not prone to having a one-game overreaction, but this is the most embarrassing Twins loss I've seen in a long time. The game win probability chart is absolutely incredible. Blue through the 8th into the bottom half, or I guess the top half, and then all red after. It was over then. I'm not going to tolerate, though, the idea that Griffin Jacks blew the game. I broke down basically how that inning happened. But if you were to tell me that you would have gone to Jorge Lopez instead, that's not really a thing for me. He was facing 7-8-9 to start the inning, and was actually had 2 outs before the double from C.J. Abrams, which is it's hilarious to even call it that. Expected batting average of 150. I have no issues with Griffin Jacks versus Jorge Lopez. I think they're interchangeable in terms of leverage guys beneath Joan Duran. If you want to say you prefer Jorge Lopez to Jacks, I wouldn't fight with you on that. In fact, I think I'd agree. But at the end of the day, Jorge Lopez can go out there and give up a couple of bloops just like anybody else. I'm not going to point to that as the single reason this team lost, or even a contributing reason that's very prominent. It was no offense to speak of, especially outside the third inning. By the way, Joey Gallo looks locked in, so thank goodness for him. The throw from Larnach just completely ill-advised. It almost seemed like a Gilberto Celestino moment from last year, or when Eddie Rosario would lose a little bit of focus in a game and just uncork a throw that made no sense. I'm still really reeling from this game and still trying to kind of articulate my thoughts. But yeah, Tyler Mahle was pretty good. Byron Buxton had a couple hits, but it's been a long time since he's had much in the way of production outside of that flare to right center in Fenway. Twins 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. I don't know. I mean, the offense just leaves everything to be desired. Pitching still doing exactly what it's supposed to, but this offense, I'll say it again, sucks out loud. Let's talk about our friends at Gametime, gametime.co. And it's where you should get your tickets if you're looking for tickets. Download the app or go to gametime.co, not .com, but .co. If you're stressed out looking to buy some tickets, this is as good a place as I can imagine to go that last minute. If you want to go watch the Timberwolves in what'll probably be their last game at Target Center here coming up, this is the way to go. Look through the app. You can sort by area and you can see what's going on in your city. Maybe there's a concert or something else popping up that you didn't even know existed or was happening, and you need a last minute ticket. So go to Gametime, gametime.co, and check them out. It is the place to go for your last minute deals. If you enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply. Download the app, get your last minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. That's gametime.co, or do what I did. Download the Gametime app and scope it out. See what's happening in your neck of the woods. So I put out the bat signal. Actually, you know what? Before we get into that, thank you for making your first listen every single day Locked On Twins. If you are an everydayer, hang out with me over the weekend. I'll have some coverage. It might only be pre and post game minutes. We'll see if there's something that pops up Saturday, Sunday to either put together a partial or full episode. But if you're an everydayer, we love to have you. Check back Monday too. We'll have a full recap of what we, knock on wood, hope is to Twins taking 2 of 3 against these woebegone Nationals. But we'll see. So if you don't check back during the weekend, we'll see you again on Monday. Twins play the Nationals on Saturday, 1:10 p.m. That's tomorrow. Chad Kuhl and Pablo Lopez, the newly extended Pablo Lopez that became formalized on Friday afternoon, 4-year deal. I think they said $8 million next year, $21.5 million the next 3, and a $1 million signing bonus. So perfectly reasonable deal for a pitcher his caliber. But he'll make his first start since agreeing to the extension, and you can listen to it on the SiriusXM app. It's SXM app. Search for Twins, and you can find Danny and Corey and they do the play-by-play for every single game. So again, go on SiriusXM, the SXM app, and search Twins, and you will find every single game. So I put out the bat signal for fans to tell me how they're feeling after this loss. And I feel like you get that good, raw emotion when you do it right after the game. Now, you could, in theory, ask the morning after, and then you get fans with a little more measured responses. But the heat's gone. That angst is gone. And I want to catch some of that angst because I also want to talk about how I'm feeling and then compare it to how I feel when I sleep on it. Now, we got 49 comments. We're not going to get to all of them, almost 50 here, but we'll talk about some of the best ones and just kind of break them down. Tom Gardner says starting pitching continues to be mostly solid. Jack's a couple uncharacteristic outings, and the offense is struggling. Bullpen needs another middle reliever. Let's talk about needing another middle reliever for a second. I kind of wonder if Brent Hedrick or Simeon Woods Richardson might not be that reliever that they eventually end up trusting in higher leverage spots. Now, hear me out. The rotation is solid with the 5 they have. And you always want at least one starter you can dip down and get for when you need a spot start, which the Twins may need in this series with Bailey Ober. But right now they have, Ober, Louis Varland, Simeon Woods Richardson, to some extent, Josh Winder. All of those guys, Winder not so much, he's working as a reliever, but you could dip down and take one of those guys for a start, right? You don't need 3 of those guys. So I wonder if Simeon Woods Richardson, while biding his time for a possible rotation spot, is actually of better use to the Twins in a 60 to 70 inning relief role where he, just lets it eat, gets a feel for the big leagues, and then you stretch him out again in the spring. Because if it comes down to this, if you have so many injuries that you need that third option, you can send him back, stretch him out in a couple weeks, and no harm, no foul. For instance, if you run Simeon Woods Richardson out there as a reliever for a month or two and he's not stretched out anymore, you don't need that long to get him up and going again. And most of the time you can see the writing on the wall when you start burning through your other guys. But I think Simeon Woods Richardson, Hedrick, Varland, whoever, if they can help the big league team as a reliever, that is more valuable in general than them pitching every 5th day at St. Paul as a starter. Not because I don't think they have things to work on at AAA, but I think the concept of facing a big league lineup 2 or 3 times a week, an inning at a time, has more value than facing a AAA lineup 3 times once a week. So if you say they need another middle reliever, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I like how they roll 4 deep with Pagan, Duran, Jackson, Thielbar. I have literally zero trust in Emilio Pagan. We talked about that yesterday. He's as good as gone to me. But Jorge Alcala wasn't that guy. Brent Hedrick might not be that guy. Jovani Moran might not be that guy right now. So they need something. And I think that maybe that means they should attempt Simeon Woods Richardson, who by all accounts to me is pretty polished and ready to be who he is as a reliever. He might need more time as a starter, but I'd rather have a guy working, again, like I said, in relief in the big leagues rather than starting in the minors if you have the opportunity there. So, yeah, Tom, I think they need another reliever, but I think that comes from within. I also am a big fan of Josh Winder. I think he's going to do some good things for this big league squad this year, possibly as soon as in the next few days. Narita says she's legitimately confused. The bats are to blame, and 1 or 2 blemishes aside, the pitching has been excellent. We won't make it to October, let alone survive playoff games with this hitting performance. Knocked the nail right on the head. I've seen people complain about Rocco. I've seen people complain about Griffin Jacks. This offense is number one with a bullet for why this team is struggling at all right now. And to say they're struggling is not, they're not struggling in the sense that they're, the team's over 500. They're 11-9. You want to see struggling. The White Sox are 7-13 and got walked off by the Rays tonight. Three runs in the ninth, couple homers off Reynaldo Lopez, who looked absolutely nasty against the Twins. So the Twins aren't there. And it's easy enough to say, just let this roll off your back. Tomorrow's a new day. But I also said that yesterday. And I also said that in the first game of the Red Sox series. It would just be nice to see a little more consistent offensive effort. And it's not there right now. Megan Knopp says she's sad with a Pikachu gif. Good usage of the gif there. Jim Bob Smith says he's feeling fine. Offense will get better as the weather warms. Plus the return of Kirilloff and Lewis. Pitching is good. However, for the next couple weeks, the offense is going to be brutal. They did get out of the stretch playing the Yankees, Red Sox, Astros, but I didn't come away that impressed. The Astros were injured and beat up. The Yankees are starting guys like Franchi Cordero and Willie Calhoun. These aren't the Yankees of old. And the Red Sox, to me, are just very blah. They're in last place, like 10-10, whatever it is. That was a chance for the Twins to do a little more damage than they did. There'll be times when they face the Royals, who are dreadful, the Tigers, who are not very good. These very Nationals, they need to take care of business against. Now the Yankees are going to come back to town. We'll see how the Twins handle them then. But I don't know. I just feel like 11-9 is perfectly respectable, but it should be better. And it's not like I'm doing a lot of mental gymnastics to say that. It's just not that. What else do we got here? Tamale says he's irritated but not worried. Jennifer Warren says, at this moment, frustrated. Alan Hoagland, a man of few words, says, boo. Boblin Maverick says, hit the ball. This is one I really like. Our friend Josh Nelson, who's a White Sox fan, says, they're better than the White Sox. Yeah, you better believe it, buddy. I've never known how to say this name. This guy's followed me for a long time. Brendan Shapepi, I think. He's the Great Poncho on Twitter, which is a lot easier to say. He says, got to think the offense will come around eventually, but it is tough to watch right now, especially with the rest of the Central struggling. This is a time we could be putting some early distance in for the division. That's a great point, too. I think the fact that they're not building a lead. And again, I fall back into like, you can't win the division in April, but you can lose it. Well, the Twins aren't losing it. They're in first place, but they're not taking advantage of opportunities that are in front of them. And I felt like Cleveland was really good at that last year. Every time Cleveland had a chance to take advantage, they did. They're not doing that now, but we know they're capable of it. And you don't want to kind of invite that energy into the scenario. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and answer or listen to a few more of these. Are you playing Ultimate Baseball GM yet? Because I am, and I'm having an absolute blast. Ultimate Pro Baseball GM on the App Store, or if you go on your Google machine and look up Ultimate Pro Baseball GM or ProBaseballGM.com. Sorry. You get to basically pretend you're a GM, and it's not super easy. You can manage every strategic aspect of a franchise. You can play through seasons. You lead your franchise to glory, or not. The opposite of that if you're not very good at your job. But you can hire coaches and staff. You manage your team finances, scout and draft players, manage personalities and injuries, navigate your franchise through free agency and the ups and downs of a season. Boy, we are seeing ups and downs in this Twin season already through 20 games. And so, yeah, it's a fun game, and I highly recommend you check it out. What we can offer you, though, is if you use the promo code Locked On in the game store, you get 100% free boost to your franchise. So just go to ProBaseballGM.com and scan the code, or look it up in the App Store. If you have an iPhone like I do, it's in the Apple Store. It's very easy to find on whatever store that you're looking for on your phone. Download it, start your dynasty today. Again, use the promo code Locked On, all caps, one word, and get a 100% free bonus. It's the biggest no-brainer of anything that we're going to say or do on this show. All right, let's come down the home stretch here. We're running a little hot and a little late, but honestly, there's a lot of stuff to get out. Before we turn in for the night, make sure you're up and at it tomorrow. Twins with an early one, not as early as possible, but 1:10 afternoon game against these very Nationals. It's Chad Kuhl and Pablo Lopez at a date at Target Field. You can on the SXM app, SiriusXM. If you search Twins, you can get every single game's hometown call with Corey and Danny. So again, download the SXM app and search Twins. Very easy. I do it in my wife's car because she's got a little bit better of a satellite radio, but I can find whichever call. If I want to listen to the Twins call of a game I'm paying attention to, if I want to listen to the other team's call because I love one of the broadcasters like Tom Hamilton in Cleveland, it's all very easy. So again, make sure you catch whatever broadcast you want on the SiriusXM app. Search Twins. You'll find it. I'm still just not over this loss, you guys. Let's just baseball and fishing enjoyer says this is pretty much what he expected, to be honest. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but you definitely knew that this Twins team could be frustrating. And to this point, they have been. Our good friend Greg Masterson says, it feels like eating rhubarb straight out of the garden. You can dip it in sugar and munch on the stalk, having a good time. But once you get to the end and eat the leaves, you get sick and may even die. Now, I don't know if there's such a thing as Rookie of the Year on Twins Twitter, but our friend Gregory here would be my number one on the ballot vote. He is absolutely amazing at Twitter, and that was a great answer. The Grant Minnesota 3 Hate Club said, if you told me the 2022 version of me that the 2023 Twins would have one of the best pitching staffs in the league, but the offense was lacking, I would take it. I'm optimistic the Twins will figure it out. And I am too. I don't want to make it sound like my individual frustration with this game is sullying the fact that I still think this is by far the best team in the Central. It's just an in-the-moment frustration. And the Royce Lewis point that he could be coming back to should not be lost on anyone, because as he showed in his very brief time in the big leagues last year, there's a big league player in there and possibly a very, very, very good one. So I agree. I still, though, I can't get over the frustration of this one. And I still think to some extent you can't really say, well, wait until this guy gets back. Joey Gallo's back. Jorge Polanco's here. What are your expectations for Alex Kirilloff? Are you being fair with those expectations? Byron Buxton disappeared for a long stretch there. Again, probably the collision with Lennon Sosa in the White Sox series that caused that, and he seems to be trending in the right direction. Took a couple really good plate appearances in tonight's game, but that was a big gap when the Twins were playing poorly that he was not performing. Carlos Correa has given them virtually nothing so far. Trevor Larnach has completely evaporated from the hot start he was on. He's basically taken walks, and that's it. Jose Miranda completely missing in action right now, to the point where if the Twins start getting guys healthy, I think Willie Castro will go down before him. But if it came down to Miranda or DFAing Nick Gordon, I think Miranda gets sent back to St. Paul. Not only because they're not as down on Gordon as a lot of people might be, but because Miranda doesn't have the versatility that Gordon does. And when Miranda's not hitting, he just has very little value to this team. Whereas, Gordon can play left, center, he can second in a pinch at short, he can do whatever. Those players have value. It's like Danny Santana from a few years ago. So, really the guys who are hitting right now, Joey Gallo, Buxton's heating up a little bit. Max Kepler has looked better at the plate since returning. And the catchers, Christian Vasquez and Ryan Jeffers, are both having fairly good seasons. Last I checked, the Twins were like third in catcher OPS. So, they're doing some things offensively, but just not enough. And to like the black holes right now, like Max Kepler at the top. I mean, he's not a black hole now because he's playing better. But then you've got Correa, Buxton, who are not who they need to be. Trevor Larnach batting cleanup, not doing what he needs to do. Miranda usually right after him, not doing what he needs to do. Gallo's been very good, but he's been hurt, so he hasn't played that much. So at the end of the day, I think if you look at the first 20 games and how this offense is played, 11-9 is a good result. It's a frustrating one because you don't have to squint too hard to see a 13-7 or a 14-6. With that said, the way that baseball works, they'll win some games they have no business winning later in the season, and usually these things even out in some form or fashion, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating. So I hear you, friends, I guess. I hear your frustration because I share it, and it's sorry. You know what? Sorry, Siri's getting involved here. I feel that frustration because tonight just the Nationals felt dead in the water. They had no business winning that game, and at the same time now they're 6-13 instead of 5-13. They're going nowhere. They're probably going to be in that mix for the number one pick next year in the lottery with all those extra ping pong balls. But in this one, they got a feel good win, and toast to them. But hopefully the Twins come back and have one of their 10-run games and just completely knock the crap out of them. That's basically what we've got for you today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Check out at Locked On Twins on Twitter, at Locked On MIN for Locked On Minnesota, which is our network. Follow me, of course, at Brendan_WARNE. Make sure you're checking out the pre and post game minutes. Hopefully breathless tomorrow. It was decidedly not breathless after tonight's game, so you'll go back and see that, I'm sure. Again, too, thank you for making us your first listen every day. If you are an everydayer, hang out with us over the weekend. I will have content in some form or fashion, maybe not a full show, but definitely pre and post game minutes. And if you have any ideas or questions or comments, got a few of those in the inbox that we'll touch on here moving forward. But if you've got things you want to ask, again, hit me up on Twitter, email, however you can get in contact with me. I'm more than happy to share this platform with you and make this a show about the fans, because you guys are the reason that this exists in the first place. Now, with that said, it's time to go. Brandon Warren signing off, saying thank you so much. And don't forget to stop by over the weekend. Or if you don't, we'll see you on Monday, and have a freaking weekend.